the copious technical difficulties. So yeah, actually, do you
Are we
mind?
live right now?
Yeah, I think we are. So but again, this is super laid back hackerspace style. Do you mind holding this for a second?
Oh,
I'm
sure.
gonna move the TV. And I literally just posted the link, so I don't think anyone has joined us yet.
Okay, cool. So let me just give a little bit of background about myself. I've been a cryptocurrency enthusiast since about 2012. I started out kind of like doing exclusively Bitcoin stuff. And then around like 2015, when Ethereum came out, I was sort of like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. And then sort of the DAO came about, and I know you guys have been studying that. And I thought the DAO was like the most mind-blowing thing imaginable. I still think it's the killer app of Ethereum. It just wasn't done right. So I got really into the DAO, really into smart contracts, started trying to do smart contracts around 2015, and just simply the ecosystem didn't exist at that point. Like you just didn't have the tools that you needed in order to do it. Like I remember Truffle was breaking practically every day when I was working with it because there was some like issue with the package. So that's how I kind of started. Infura was sort of a new thing around that time. Like when it came out, it was like, oh my God, this makes all of our lives so easy. You know, learning about MetaMask. And then around 2016, I was sort of doing more sort of smart contract development. And then like 2017, I started working for a company doing on a Bitcoin exchange. So it was one of the largest BTC USD exchanges out there. And I got really sort of intimately acquainted with just the whole exchange economics. And we'll be talking about later why P3D is such a special contract. And the big one is that it practically makes exchanges unnecessary. P3D puts exchanges out of business. Yeah. So that was really interesting to me because I sort of saw firsthand how dirty the exchange business is and how it's something that is really not very good for smaller players. And to me, that was kind of an eye-opening experience because, you know, you sort of think about cryptocurrency and, you know, Bitcoin, and this is like a tool for, you know, normal people to sort of not have to rely on big banks. But the reality of the situation is that in the exchange space, there's so much going on behind the order book that you see that most smaller people are getting a really bad deal. And they're faced with stuff that like larger players would never have to deal with. So that's kind of how I worked there for about a year. And then after that, I sort of went freelance, and that's currently where I'm at right now, which is basically just an entirely freelance consultant. I'm working on a variety of different little smart contract applications. Currently, you know, I'm working on some of the largest dApps in the Ethereum ecosystem. So Easy CDP, which is a front end to MakerDAO. And actually, within the past couple months, I deployed my own fork of P3D, which is on Ethereum Classic. It's actually called P3C.io. And currently that's, yeah. So you guys should check that out.
Totally.
PC3? P3C.
Yeah, so that basically P3C was launched about 2 months ago, and it currently has almost 4,500 Ethereum Classic in it, and it's the largest dApp on that ecosystem. And the idea is that basically with that chain being so kind of unused, there's practically no transactions on there. You know, my belief is that basically we can build a chain where these hourglass structures like P3D are sort of the dominant economics. And instead of having sort of a token-based ecosystem with exchanges and all of that, Ethereum Classic can be much more sort of this hourglass-friendly environment. So that's currently where I'm working on right now. Yeah. So that's kind of like my background.
Oh, okay.
Looking.
I'm right by my own mic.
People on there.
Yeah. So was the plan to what was
He's continuing with this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I leave?
Did you open up the P3?
Yeah. We got on here. So I'm
Okay.
confused what's going on. I was checking out the site. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't know about this. I found a couple other ones that were like bad. when I looked into the
Yeah.
classic ones, and they were all just like people gone the next day.
Yeah, so there was, they basically all kind of like ripped off so P3C is a fork of P3D, which removed all of the governance aspects of the P3D contract. So if you guys really dug into it, you'd notice that there was a number of administrative functions on P3D, like the ability to change the name, the ticker symbol, and most importantly, the P3D administrative team can actually change the staking requirement, which they did a few months ago, which meant the number of P3D that you need to hold in order to run a masternode. And the masternode element is actually a really key part of the proof of weekend ecosystem, because it's a way for people that are building applications on top of proof of weekends to basically pay themselves because they're referring business. So when they upped the masternode requirement from 5 P3D to have a masternode to 100 P3D to have a masternode, that basically meant that in order to run a dApp that leveraged masternode elements to it, you needed to have almost $1,000 worth of P3D just to get started. And that was sort of the element that, to me, really like pushed me away from that team and said, okay, the direction that this ecosystem is going in, it really shouldn't be governed that way. The core contract needs to be kind of like left to its own devices. So yeah, so let me just kind of get into the big kind of thesis that I have and really what I kind of want to talk about, which is I think that P3D and the hourglass is sort of the crypto equivalent of a corporation. So the idea is that it takes money in and it gives shares of that corporation to people that are paying it, and it creates a really convenient way to distribute dividends to shareholders. And what we're going to see in the future, I think, is that more and more people are starting to view this system as being very useful, and people playing with the parameters of the P3D contract, so how much it increments, what the starting amounts are, etc. And people are going to be able to take this and find a way to dump profit from some sort of application to the holders, and that will, basically it'll be the equivalent to ERC20. So kind of the direction that I'm seeing P3D going in is as sort of a new corporation, a new style corporation. And what we saw with FOMO 3D, so kind of like to articulate how FOMO 3D fits into the P3D ecosystem, is that FOMO 3D is sort of a moneymaker for the P3D company. So if you think of P3D as a corporation, FOMO 3D was the first sort of value generator that delivered dividends back to P3D holders. And there was this application out there, I don't know the exact URL of it, it was called The Button. And the idea with The Button was that The Button was a smart contract that collected a bunch of Ethereum from FOMO 3D. And then when someone pushed the button, what would happen is that it would buy P3D with that, and then it would perform a transfer a number of times. So it would be like transfer, pay the 10% tax, transfer again, pay another 10% tax, etc. It's constantly transferred. And what that did was it effectively provided dividends to P3D holders. So currently, P3D on its own has sort of 3 sources of revenue. Basically, people buying it gives 10% dividends, people selling gives 10% dividends, and then people transferring gives 10% dividends. But that's really not interesting enough on its own, because why would people want to keep participating in this thing? It seems like kind of a zero-sum thing. You require more people in order to win. But with what FOMO 3D demonstrated was that you could, in a sense, have a casino game, which is what FOMO 3D is. It's just sort of like a gambling game that generates profit. And then you can put that profit in a smart contract, and you can use that to distribute back to P3D shareholders. So to me, that's kind of like the big idea, or that's kind of the big takeaway that I got from FOMO 3D and P3D, is that P3D was sort of like a company, and FOMO 3D is sort of just like one revenue generator that company created. And that you can theoretically swap out Fomo 3D with a variety. You can swap out Fomo 3D theoretically with a lemonade stand, and the lemonade stand purchases Ethereum and just sends it to the smart contract to be distributed to shareholders, and you can run a legitimate business using this sort of smart contract. Yeah, so that's kind of like the big idea that I got from it, and kind of why I'm so interested in P3D is just sort of as a corporate structure.
And was there, how do you see the universal basic income element? I know you've kind of touched upon before. Like, do you see the decentralized nature of this corporation type structure as something that we could all opt in, like kind of create our own distributed networks with?
Absolutely. So that's really the goal with P3C, which stands for Planetary Prosperity Project, is to create one of these basic hourglass structures, and then to spawn sub hourglasses off of that all pay back to the main one. So the idea is that the main hourglass kind of represents the universal basic income interface. And the sub hourglasses that all give a portion of their profits back to the main one represent the companies and cooperatives, et cetera, whatever economic structure you want to call it, are sort of paying in to make this system possible. And there's so many advantages too to the P3D UBI idea, which is that there's really no requirement, for example, of age or nationality or sort of like it can't be shut down because it's distributed. So there's this sort of idea that, and basically one of the ideas that I sort of have is that you can create one of these and you can have individuals who don't have access to good pension plans. So people that live in, or let's say migrant workers, for example, or refugees from Syria who want to be able to participate in a structure like this, they can put in 50 cents, 75 cents, like $10. And they know that that money is continually compounding. And when times are bad, or let's say they're older or they need to withdraw, they can choose to liquidate their shares in the fund and withdraw that at any time. And it's all completely trustless. So they don't need to worry about having some like central bank or central government that can, let's say, change or be toppled or say, oh, you can't retire right now or you can't liquidate right now. They can do it at any moment that they want. So yeah, so just to sum up, I think that it could be, it is a very powerful tool for UBI. I think that the one question that sort of I've been thinking about a lot is that there is a requirement to sort of buy in with P3D. So people that are early purchasers of P3D are able to get better dividends than people that are late purchasers. And one of the questions that I think that we as a community sort of need to come up with is, do universal basic income schemes that we're thinking of, should they necessarily incentivize early participation? So is it fair, for example, that let's say I knew about P3D early and I was able to buy a lot of it? Is that true universal basic income that I'll get a much larger share of the income than, let's say, somebody who didn't have access to a cell phone and wasn't able to know about it in time? So that's sort of a big open question that I think that we as a community sort of need to answer in terms of whether or not this is a solution to UBI. But I think that fundamentally this structure that we have here is something that actually is very close to what we will eventually arrive at.
And this puts me in mind too of Alex. You've pointed out how the team just said like they're against open source now.
Or at
That
least-
whole point
Yeah, there was
because
a
of
big
the
thing
scams.
about how much scams they've basically been the cause of by open sourcing their code, because it was like so easy to just fork with a backdoor, and like everyone was just thirsty for gains. So like they estimated like tens of thousands of ETH was scammed from people like directly from their code. But at the same time, if they didn't release it, no one could have trusted them. It's like
Yeah.
a weird scenario.
So I'm personally, I actually do not like the closed sourcing that they've done with their UI, for example, because I think that this code is so tremendously powerful as just like a security token implementation that what they're describing as an issue is like, imagine, for example, that the ERC20 standard was closed source because it's possible to run a scam coin on top of it. So I'm not really convinced by their argument that it should be closed source because the community has been scammed in the past. I think it's way too early to be, trying to protect people with these blockchain applications by preventing them from using it. Like, just to be frank here, is that like if you're playing around with dApps right now, a lot of the time things break not because people are scamming you, but simply because people don't know the proper way to program. So a lot of these supposed scams that they were talking about were actually individuals who were trying to experiment with new sorts of systems under this schema, and they just didn't know exactly how to program it properly. So I think that, I think that closed sourcing the smart contract code is just a tremendously bad idea and would stifle progress.
ERC20, greatest scamming coin of all time. Way more people have been scammed by those.
Exactly. I'm curious kind of what the room thinks. Do you guys sort of think that the source should be closed because of ethical concerns? For example, like scam coins?
I'm definitely against the closing, but like, I did get their point, but yeah, I like your point better about ERC20. Like, ICOs are half scams anyway, and that's way worse than anything. Some people who are knowingly gambling, and lost.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think ultimately that, yeah, you literally couldn't know what you're agreeing to if it wasn't open. I think the team was kind of trolling, like
They're always
they
trolling.
were just basically using that as a way to complain of just like, oh, we might as well close the source code, etc. But you're saying their user interface stuff has closed source code? Because I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so this is something that I've actually reached out to Justo about, asking him if he could unobfuscate some of the code on the front end. Because, so there are two front ends to proof of weak hands. There's p3dbot.github.io, which in my opinion is like a work of brilliance because that website can theoretically be loaded onto a flash drive. And as long as you have access to an Ethereum full node, you can run that on your computer. So when I think about like really unstoppable organizations, what Ethereum is promising, these are the type of things where somebody can basically run an Ethereum mining node in a place, for example, like China, where there's issues of website censorship. You can run the mining node, which you can't really block, and the website can be distributed on a flash drive. And you can simply plug it in to the computer, and then as long as you have access to that node, you're able to interact with the contract. So I think that it's a tremendously powerful contract. And what they did was they took a lot of the Web3 calls. So this was the bridge between Web3 and the jQuery, and they obfuscated that. So they made it very difficult to sort of deconstruct how that works. Now it's still possible. So if you go to p3c.io/interact. That's the fork of P3D that I'm currently working on. That is a UI that is actually based on the P3D UI. And it's entirely runnable via flash drive, which is really important to us.
So far all they've done is gambling, though, right? Is there any that's my thing. Like they talked about like feeding new games in, and that would have potential. Like you even said you can hook your stuff up to it. But so far it's always got to be a losing game. Like if the divs are getting paid out.
Yeah. So the way that I would say it is that the problem that Team Justice is facing is that every game that they've launched on top of P3D, so whatever pays out to P3D shareholders, is entirely a zero-sum game. So the definition of a zero-sum game is that two people put money in, one person wins. Someone has to lose. And I don't think that these zero-sum games are actually very good business. That's the problem, is that imagine, for example, like somebody just came up with an idea for an online casino that was literally just like really boring dice games where most people would lose. Most people aren't going to play that. That's not going to be a very profitable enterprise. So to me, I think that for Team Just to really succeed, they need to look beyond just simply zero-sum games, and they need to find a way to actually generate new value to put into that. So one thing that I've been experimenting with is this idea of sponsorship. So imagine for a second that an individual community, let's imagine model train enthusiasts, they have their own version of the P3D hourglass, and they have on there a sponsorship contract that you can buy that sponsorship and place an ad, and that money gets distributed to all token holders of that model train hourglass. And that's something that's actually a generator of new value. That is, somebody will come in and actually pay for that sponsorship slot to pay everybody there because it's actually providing something new. So it's things like that that I think are really going to make these hourglasses bigger and not just more zero-sum sort of gambling games, which is what they've done so far. But the big important thing to keep in mind is that P3D is sort of the main show here, and that FOMO 3D is really just like one example of something that pays dividends into P3D. It's not sort of the big thing going on. At least in my opinion, it's really the main attraction here.
Yeah, the FOMO was doomed from the start because of how it works. At least P3D is still going. Like FOMO gets to where people really realize it's not going to work anymore. Like you're not getting your money back, and then it just dies and sits near the end of the timer for weeks.
Yeah, and if you look at it on that radar, I mean, it's doing pretty poorly. I think it had like maybe 3 ETH in volume in the past 24 hours in the past week.
Yeah, I think it's just people trying to increase the timer so they can figure out how to beat it. The only reason to buy like a 12-hour chunk of time right now is so you can continue trying to figure out how you're going to win.
Absolutely. And do you guys know what's going on with FOMO 3D short? Because I remember there was FOMO 3D long and FOMO 3D
I think they just
short.
stopped it because it was like way more. It just didn't work. And then once every next round, the ICO phase, which is where they pump the pot, like you weren't even guaranteed to get your money back if you were in the ICO phase, which is everyone who's in the first minute. So yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, and what I think happened is that Team Just spent a lot of time creating this game, putting in lots of effort into programming it, testing it out, verifying it, and it sort of had a really big splash when it came out, and then so far it's kind of like sunk. And I think that as a team, they're just really sort of demoralized by that. And I've been following the Discord. It's a lot less exciting than it used to be. And that's the thing about the dApp market, if you guys are serious about becoming dApp developers, is that if you do like 10 dApps, one of them is going to pick up traction. Like seriously, I've done so many dApps where I think it's a brilliant idea and it goes nowhere. So it's keeping that sort of persistence, like, okay, this could be a failure, but let's move on with the same idea, is I think like really the most important thing to being in this space.
Yeah, I think the
and
average.
trying things out.
Yeah, my guess is the average life cycle for Ether games at least is like 3 months. Like from like they get popular one day, and then they gain users for a couple more days, and then they go slow decline until nothing. Like most of the games for Ethereum this year have done that.
Yeah, because they're zero-sum games. So how are you going to find new people to participate? Because someone has to lose money in order for you to win. They're not actually generating any new value.
Yeah, and even the games that are like playable, quote unquote, like some sort of actual like video game attempt, like they all just eat gas until like you can't play.
Yeah, there was an interesting game that came out that I spent an embarrassing amount of ETH on because I thought it was a cool idea. It was called FOMO 5, and it was a clone of FOMO 3D, where the idea was you had a timer, which was something like 2 years worth of seconds. And every time you bought a key, it reduced that timer by a certain amount of seconds. And the person who got 0 got all of the money in the pot. So you had all these people putting in money because they were basically waiting for somebody to look at it and say, okay, well, there's 10,000 seconds left. I'm just going to do one big buyout of the last 10,000 second chunk or the last 30,000 second chunk. And people didn't know where it was. So I put in a lot of money into that because I kind of thought that was an interesting idea and to see what happens. But yeah, that ended up going nowhere. It's still counting down, and I've made about 80 cents from it on like a $200 investment. But I guess you learn.
Yeah.
So are there any other games that you guys are interested in that you've seen recently?
I have the shame to say I went and installed the EOS wallet. I'm playing EOS Nights, and it's just as
How
bad.
was it?
It's just as bad as all the games on Ethereum, if not worse. Because it's because the interface, they put a picture of a phone on your browser and make you play in that, and yeah.
Yeah, I pick on him for this all the time because it's like, it's literally, I think they must have put about $400 into the visual interface of it. It's like, why you gotta put a game on the blockchain if it's literally an inset of a cellular phone and the game plays in that cellular phone within your browser window. It's like they could have at least centered it and made it a little bigger
It's
so
off
you
to the
have,
right.
yeah, it's really odd. It's
Yeah, but
very odd to
everything
me.
else for Ethereum, like, the other one I still play consistently is 0x Universe, which is basically like, yeah, like you got a couple planets, and then and over time your people and resources go up, and then you use different resources to launch spaceships and try and find more. So it's a lot like an idle game, like you've got to wait. So when you take when transaction fees goes up and you don't play, and then you come back in a month, you just got tons of stuff, and and then I actually got to play again the other day because it was finally playable. Because on Ethereum gaming, my theory is anything 2 Gwei or more is like just too much. Because like throwing ERC 721s around and like writing them and creating them and stuff is just it's just brutal. The gas is too intensive. Yeah, the gas is too intensive. Like if I got a 12,000 knots. So
Oh wow.
yeah, I don't mess around.
Nerds.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why we deployed P3C to Ethereum Classic, is because literally the gas costs are like insubstantial. There's nothing on the chain. So you can literally deploy any game you want there, and it's practically free. And you earn Ethereum Classic, which, regardless of whether or not you think it's worth anything, like the idea behind it, you can trade it on Coinbase for your local fiat. So it's just a really useful chip to pass around.
Well, thank you so much. I know it's like 10:30 there. But thank you so much for beaming in and chatting with us. Does anybody have any further questions for Alexander?
I have a question about the forking. Yeah, so the issue that you have these games and then people fork it with backdoors. Can there be some way of asserting authorship or something like signature, like that seems something that the community can fix in a way that.
People are just such gamblers. They see a new thing and they know they got to get in first to win. You don't got time to wait for someone else to check if you don't have the skills to do it yourself.
I see.
Yeah, we're thirsty for gains.
So actually, with P3C, we reached out to an organization that does security audits, and we've had it audited by them because we made some modifications to the P3D contract. So they've officially audited it to say, okay, well, there's no ability for them to exit scam. These are the potential vulnerabilities they can have. We believe that it's safe for the following reasons. So we've had a series of about 4 security auditors all look at it and come to the conclusion that the contract is safe and that we can't just exit scam it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Is the code for that on GitHub?
Yep. So
Awesome.
you guys can look it up. It's under the name, if you guys go to github.com/p3cbot/t3c.github.io.
Okay. Awesome, and we can add this link in after we finish the live stream. I'm gonna paste in the reading links, and then I'll add that one as well. Yeah, this has been
Yep,
super
and
dope.
it's under the contacts directory.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. The live stream was indeed hacked together because it's me like filming you on a camera. It's kind of like when someone's aunt gets their hands on some technology, but the sound has been really good and the stream has been completely consistent. So I think it worked out. So thank you very much, Alexander.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, cheers.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
And do you want to take a minute before we launch into
Yeah,
you?
I think
Okay.
I got enough. I got 6 tabs and
To
stuff.
David and anyone else who's watching, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5-minute break. I will write that on a piece of paper and point this camera at it. And then, Sue, if you want to just go to the YouTube link, I think we're going to close the appear in and then just switch to YouTube 5 minutes from now.
How are we?
I'm just going to film you on the YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube now?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you can plug into the, that's why we need 5 minutes though.
No.
Oh, oh,
I don't think it's changed yet.
oh, all right.
But I did see it come to me, so that makes sense.
What time is it? 7:30? Okay. Boom, that did work. Against the odds.
Hey, Mary. Yeah, I didn't want it to stretch.
You need a sound as well? Cool, we can do a minute break. The sound is still going though.
I mean, that's
Ridiculous streaming errors again.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got a Chromebook, upon which appear.in works more seamlessly than Google Hangouts.
Yeah, we should definitely feel, I feel like this, we should have one touch streaming all the setup, like.
Yeah, well, we had that equipment
Yeah.
before, some of it went missing. So we kind of got to do an inventory, and I think the comments will be fine to replace.
Yeah, we gotta get some new stuff for sure.
Well, one of our like streaming go-tos was actually something that just died of old age. We had the Yeti mic, like the stand-up radio style
The
mic.
circle one?
Well,
Oh, the
Yeah,
Yeti
yeah,
mic.
like-
Yeah, I know the one.
yeah.
That's a good one. I
it
have
was
the.
really
I
useful
have the
for like
snowboarding
not
one.
picking up too much like background noise and stuff.
What were the formal games that you were discussing?
Okay, so the phone is basically like it's okay. There's I'm gonna talk about how someone won. So basically, the game, the P3D thing is like like more people buy, the price goes up. More people sell, the price goes down. The spread is divs. Now, FOMO 3D is a game at a website called exitscam.me. So be very wary of sending it your money. This is called that. That's kind of the idea. It's like a joke scam. So there's a 24-hour timer, and you can buy. And when the timer runs out, the vault opens. Whoever has the key opens the vault. You ever buy a key, you are the key holder to the key vault. The most recent key is always the one that opens the vault. But when you buy a key, you add 30 seconds to the clock. So you give other people time to buy. The timer maxes out to 24 hours, and the key price goes up every time. Very little bit, but everyone who bought keys before you gets those sweet, sweet dividends. So you buy early, you get a bunch of keys. So there's two ways to play. You buy before everyone, you buy at the bottom, and hoping you basically make the judgment that enough people will buy keys after you, thinking that they're going to get their money back, that you will actually do it. And then somewhere along the line, you run into those people, and you come in from the top with the people who are trying to win. They're only buying single keys at the end of the timer. So you have the people who are, well, basically it gets to a certain point where it gets overhyped, which is what happens, like by a lot, and then it jumps up here, and then everyone realizes they're not gonna ever win, and they're never gonna get their money back, and they were so stupid for throwing all this in after it gained this much in a day and a half and not doing the research. And the last few people like buy the keys one at a time, trying to outdo each other. They have bots constantly buying, like sitting there watching blockchain, waiting for the key, buying. And some guy was like, no, I'm gonna win, and he did. I'm gonna show you how. That's a good intro.
Okie dokie. Is this here for Meetup?
I do.
Don't go too long because my hand is going to give out if I have to keep
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
at the
I'd
camera.
say 10 minutes at most.
Totally. Because this is a tale. This is like a story.
Yeah. Let me tell you, let me paint you a picture. Mustache. Oh my God. That was the worst fail. Thanks for not putting it on the stream. I totally didn't miss that.
Oh,
shot.
that went out. It got tired. No, it got like tired. Or your computer went to sleep.
My fault.
Am I describing the projector as getting tired?
You
I think
are.
I'm the one who's tired.
You're projecting.
The robot just got tired, Alex. It's fine.
You are projecting. Okay.
Okay.
So, to just explain the game to people in the room, somebody won. So by the end of the game, basically for a couple weeks, it was just sitting at a very low timer, sub 5 minutes. I looked a lot away from opportunity, never got it. It just sat there and people would buy, and you'd notice if you watched a lot, it would get down to about 90 seconds.
This is FOMO 3D, right?
This is FOMO 3D.
Yeah.
So when the timer gets to 0, last purchase wins. It would get to about 90 seconds left, and then everyone would pile in at once, and there would be 5 minutes again. And it would happen again and again and again. If you went and looked at the addresses, it was clearly bots. It was clearly bots just waiting, because it was so cheap. It was like 0.0005 ether for like a chance at 20,000 ether. Why wouldn't you set up a bot and just give it $100 to go on forever? So a bunch of people did that, and there was enough of them just always going. So along the way, someone did eventually win. And what they did was very interesting. So there's 3 addresses here that we're going to look at. They're all dope named. So this is A169. This is the winning address. This next one is 9dab. 9dab is his cohort address. So basically, he was clearly controlling both of these 2 addresses, 9dab and A169. And then his fun contract that he deployed to help him win was OCOC. So those are the 3 things we're going to be looking at. I'm not going to scroll around them too much, but as you can see, like all of this guy's transactions, he's got like 38 pages. The winning, this is A169, are all basically single keys, or 0.005. He was just buying single keys at a time 26 days ago. That's about when it happened. That's about when the victory came in. I think I would like to find the winning one, but yeah, I can't find the winning one right now. I should bring that up after. And then you have here, so there's these, of all the transactions that go out from 9dab, you can see it receives 10 ether, like getting freshly stocked up right before he actually goes in for the kill. Right? And you can see these couple transactions that are funky looking. And they're all from 9dab, where did they go? They go to OCO. That's his contract he deployed, right? As you can see, they had errors somewhere in execution. So, how to use that as his advantage. Basically, over a week, he tested the bots and he tracked each one of them, and he basically figured out what API they were using to pull their gas estimation. So the other tricky thing about being the last key is if 2 transactions get in the same block, you need to be the one with lower gas because you got processed after. So when it comes to being the last guy, you don't just want to throw out 100 gwei to make sure you get the last key, because then the guy who threw in the normal, you want to be in at the bottom. So it's a tricky place to be. You want to be in the block, but at the bottom of the block. So how do you make sure that happens? Well, you can't really. But what he did is he deployed this contract, OCO, and we can see that, I think I'm on the last page of it. I'll go to the very end of it. The last page is deployed by our friend A169. A169. All the transactions are pretty much from him. A lot of them are errored out. It is just practicing for a week. I wish I had an exact date on how many days ago it was won, but this is just right when it was created and him practicing. So here we have a normal set of Ethereum blocks. These are the most recent blocks. And this is the transactions per block. You know, like sometimes 300, 170, sometimes 11. It's not really busy right now, right? 46, 87, whatever. This is the set of blocks from after the victory transaction was put in that block right there. You know, a few seconds later probably there was another normal block. And then all of these, you can see, 25, 34, 10, it just drops. 46, but all these are like nothing. And then how much Gwei over here is clearly going up. So if you get to 9.5 is the average. I think it's either average or lowest. I'm pretty sure it's average. 9.5, and then all of a sudden he's pumping it up. So what he has to do here is he has to make sure the other bots don't just overbid him now, because the time's almost over. So each block he has to pump the average Gwei of the price to fill up the block. He's basically using his contract, OCO. He basically, the source isn't open, so we don't know what it is. But there's some funky functions in there that are just looping through gas. So if you look at what we're going to do is we're going to open up a couple of those. So these are around like when he was testing, 33 days ago. We have two transactions from 9DAB to OCO. And remember, it was A169 that created OCO. So 9DAB is now the one interacting with it. And you can see here, you know, he's just testing stuff. 43,000 ether, he used it all, right? Bad instruction, but it still used up all the gas that he put in. He's just testing out weird stuff, you know, and this one fails. Same thing, he's just throwing out 6.01 Gwei. He's just messing with his own thing. He's testing out, because this is a few days before the victory comes in. So we have these blocks where there's nothing. So now we're going to look at the actual block that he won in. This is a normal block. And we're going to skip ahead 2, because we learned from the other one that the next block was normal. And then we should find a couple of his super funky transactions right at the top. So this one is from 9DAB, this is from C96B, also there. So if we open up these two, we're going to see what he did to fill up. So you can see this is requesting, this is 2.2 million gas, I believe. A block can hold around 7 or 8 million gas. So this one's got 2 million gas at a price of 11, and this one's got 4.8 million gas at a price of 14. That's about 95% of the block space. So his transaction for the key, or his other transaction, so not only does he take these, he's filling up the rest too. So he basically buys out the block space, 95% with a decent price. Higher than the average, because he's looked at what APIs they're pulling from. He knows they're going to go in with 6. So he needs to make sure 6 has no chance of getting in. So he goes in with 11 and 14 and fills up the block. The other 5%, he's going at 500. But, because it's using averages, he learned the APIs and what they were pulling from and how the APIs work. So he tricked all of them. The APIs are looking at how much was in the block. Well, the API saw that 95% of the block was eaten up with 14 Gwei and 11 Gwei. Well, then it's going to keep telling everyone for a fast, instant 2-minute transaction, like on either gas station, it's like, do you want it in now? Pay this price. It's still only going to say you need 14. It's going to be like, well, 15 will get you in the next block. But really, he's buying all the space. He moves on to the next block, he just ups both those prices. And if you go from the winning block downwards, if you just go from the winning block and keep going, you can see that in every block after this one, there's 2 very similar transactions from, here we go, here's 9DAB again, that's our guy. 9DAB, and there's a couple other ones, 3C3, there's a lot of them around. Open right here. This is another one, 4.8 million at 14. Yeah, so he mimicked this transaction to get in the next block. So the next couple blocks, he does it. He rolls 4.8 million gas, which is like 0.06 ether just on fees. You know, when you go back through his addresses, I didn't look through this, but people have reported he spent about 50 ether over the week before he won, just learning.
So in distributed systems terms, you can say that he starved his opponents.
I wouldn't know distributed system terms, but it does sound like he sure did that.
Like he starved them, like give them no CPU power to
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He basically, and he tricked them into, they could have technically got it, but because of their lack of foresight that someone would do this, their bot was just, the different bots were just set up like against the Ether gas station API, against the EtherScan API, maybe against their own custom ones. who knows? But wherever they were pulling from, you know, he had basically had to just trick a few different places. So now, basically when the contract was over, so he does this for a few blocks. As you can see, like the gas used, we go back to this picture, there's basically no transactions in these blocks. He bought it all. He didn't care. Once he got a few of them, apparently, like if you really look into it, you can actually, we don't even need to really look into it. You can, should be able to find it very easily. You can see him, a lot of his drop to replace transactions. Like he's sitting there in front of his computer, like higher, like he basically within the same block broadcasted 5 times, like 100 way, 200 way, 400 way, 800 way. It just like, and you can see like, because it still shows them in the backlog of mempool. I don't know if I'll be able to find those. Maybe we jump like a few blocks ahead to maybe block 902.
And that's an interesting attack over the blockchain in general.
Yeah, it was real tricky. Not C69, I know this is him. Let's see one more if we can find if this is one of the ones I'm thinking of. Yeah, also found only one other dropped transaction. So up here, we're a few blocks later, now he's doing 21 blip. And basically he's doing that to keep the average down, so it wasn't just a case of over pumping the blocks. He couldn't have just gone in and pumped it at 500 Gwei, because then the bots would be like, oh, everyone's doing 500 and for 100% of the gas, can't do that. So he had to be just sweet enough with his offer to say, hey miners, 35% of the block at 20% above the going price. Oh look, 65% of the block, or 60% at 30% above the going price. Miners pick that up right away. Their block's full. It's better for them too, because they don't always want to process a bunch of transactions. Like I noticed actually in the live blocks, there's like F2 pool is still mining empty blocks. They don't process any, because I guess it's propagation time issues.
And that was for 5 minutes.
No, it was for about a minute and a half, maybe, because there's 15-second blocks. Right, so that list right there was about 10 blocks. So he did when there was about 90 seconds on the clock, and then that adds 30, so he had about 2 minutes, about 8 more blocks. And then some of them came through faster.
So for 2 minutes, nobody in the planet managed to do anything in there.
Yeah. And a couple people did, but it was mostly him though.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see a couple, if you look through the block numbers, you can see a couple other things getting in. Like this is block 902, so it's mostly like Ethermine. Like it's all like, I guess, this Ethermine, oh no, that's who mined it? No, that's, so basically this is probably a block that was found by Ethermine, and Ethermine probably processes all their own transactions when they find blocks. So in this case, Ethermine, maybe they just took the rest of the space for themselves. They were like, okay, well, we'll take your sweet deals. Let's go a little bit ahead. I think 905 might be the last block. Look, there you go. That's a full block. This is when he got real desperate. So you can see from 9dab, these are 3 of him, and this doesn't go to OCO anymore, and this is one of his other contracts, 18E1, right? So like there's 9dab, him and him, there's the full block, these transactions. So this is when he's like really at the end. He's like won it by now. And so the final thing we'll do is we'll look at these, because this is the real winners here. So how did you do 9dab? I'm going to click away from the block screen. Yeah, only one other transaction. Yeah, he paid 500 Gwei for 4.8 million gas, and he had upped the price from 190 Gwei. So the original broadcast was 190, and then he's just like, oh, 500. So yeah, so he managed to lock everyone out. The most interesting part is that he deployed his own contracts. You can see here where 1A69 has contract creation on OCO. So this is him basically practicing for days. Now obviously you can't see the code on this because it's blocked, because he didn't open source it or whatever. That's the thing with BOOTYcamp, like you actually have to upload your own code and then it matches and then it says it. So basically if you go to here, it's just, you're gonna get nothing. It's just like this. So somewhere in here is he basically just figured out a function that eats gas and just loops until it's done. And he overpaid the miners and tricked all the APIs, all the bots, tricked all the APIs, tricked all the bots that were using those APIs, and walked to a 10,000 ether, not 20 because a bunch goes back to the next pool. Yeah, victory is his. Yeah, it's a little fast for that guy, right? Yeah, for sure. What a hero. What a hero. I thought the miners would collude for it. and prove it. And I thought for sure the miners would just take it. It'd be like, yo guys, this is a bunch of ether. And then the idea was it goes against their own interest, that mining's not secure, but mining is supposed to be greed-based. So if it's more profitable to attack, you're supposed to do it. Yeah. Proof of work.
But there are other instances of that game in the blockchain already, or not?
Oh, as soon, before it was even done, before anybody had won, tons of copies came out. Because the original code was open source. Yeah, FOMO 3 long. So and that's the one where the guys were like, oh, our code has gone on to scam so many people.
And they originally put like some shitty Easter egg into their own code that they just X'd out when they ran it, right? I think you told me about something where
there was a separate thing, like there was a separate little prize pool if you put in over 0.1 ether, buying keys, you were like had access to a second prize pool, but then someone figured out you could like overflow bug it because it was based on a random number. So like if the prize pool ever got to 0.4 ether, no matter what the odds of winning, you could like send a weird transaction and just run it till it won, and you'd always leave it a profit. So they built that into the interface. They're like, it's called Gohan mode. They're like, if you ever see this much, but then the way that countered itself was by too many people playing it. So whenever it got to just under 0.4, people would start getting ready to do it, and then multiple people go for it, and everyone ends up losing because only one person wins. Zero-sum game. A problem with Ethereum in general, like Ethereum, like constant transactions, is just like everything costs gas. Unless you're gaining Ethereum by what you're doing, then you have to keep pumping money into the system. And it's kind of like this weird, like, okay, so, and it has to come from somewhere. So.
Explain your giant nonce.
Oh, whenever the network's cheap enough, things become easy to do. So early on there wasn't much to do, but when it would go under 1 gwei, it was like, it would just felt free. You know, it just felt free. Like you buy a couple ether to play with. That's what I did. I just bought some to play with. And then it was like way up in value. So it was kind of wasteful, I guess, for me to do it. But I would just like farm 1 gwei transactions across like 4 accounts. And then like sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. Like I've played every blockchain game that exists, done like a couple hundred transactions on it, upwards of 1,000, who knows. Some of the game design is super flawed and it's advantageous to multi-account. You know, it's even more advantageous to bot, but it's just the fact that it's advantageous to have more than 1 account is just, so you have to. But then it gets real confusing. You're like, what game did I play what account on? And where's my tokens? Where's my Lambo? I bought a Lambo in a robot game. It went up in value 4x the next day.
Wow.
Don't invest in tokens. It's the worst. It's like worse than ICOs.
Invest in robot Lambos.
Invest in robot Lambos. You cannot go wrong.
But yeah, I mean, I brought this up last week. Like, the reason I wanted to have a session on blockchain gaming is like, this is the most use that blockchains are getting right now, really. You know, we used to use Bitcoin peer-to-peer here all the time, like for very small amounts. And then the store of value, like once people started to adopt it and we started to be shamed for how much we had wasted on, currency, it stopped. Things have changed. And I mean, I think Ethereum developing alongside that slow bogging down of Bitcoin in terms of, Roger Ver would give you an earful on this. I still think that Bitcoin with Lightning and other scaling is going to be the best exchange of value. Right now, it's the best, to me, store of value. But we were really suspicious of Ethereum here to some degree. Like, we're very maximalist here. And so while Ethereum and ETC after it were getting their sea legs, these ideas around interacting with a world computer and the really kind of complex things that smart contracts are delving into started to seem more and more I've started to finally see all these use cases. Many of our core members still do not support such use cases. But I really see gaming as the realm where an enthusiastic young man like Alex will bug test the hell out of a contract if it's in a gaming scenario. So I do think that making it playful and letting it go to the like think of how many people spend huge amounts of time in Warcraft and stuff like that, using their analytic minds, like using really, really good complex thought. Like it would be dope if we could make our games meaningful. I still don't think any of our blockchain games, besides maybe Team Just stuff, have reached a meaningful point. You'd have more of a strong
No, you're
perspective
right.
than
That
me.
much is all blockchain games are garbage.
That's why I really liked Alexander's
I love
hot take on this, like, this is a model for universal basic income. It's like, okay, let's game something useful. Let's try it out. Yeah, any, I guess, final thoughts on Team Just? And
Shout out to my fellow Scarab Lords World of Warcraft. Played that way more than blockchain. Guys, still got some catching up to do.
Warcraft. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna cut the feed then.